This was a funny clip. I ain't gonna lie, and it really shouldn't. But
fellas, it's no secret. This season is up to this point, man. It hasn't been what we envisioned. I know my goal when I first signed with Philadelphia was to bring a championship to these amazing fans here. I still remain positive about that, and that is still the case and where I'm coming from. With that being said, though, I want to let the Podcast P family know that after today's episode with Dwight, I plan to take a break from the pod just to focus on getting my body right, getting mentally right, and, help this squad make a push towards our goal to finish the season out, give ourselves a chance to be in contentions to compete for a championship.
Paul, be fucking for real, bro. I'ma just say it, man. Be fucking for real. In hopes of a chance to contend for a champion. This season is cooked. This season is cooked. Paul George. I'm not gonna lie, bro. Let me finish. Let's finish the clip first.
I won't front. The desire to get back to shooting in person with my guys as well is the forefront of, this hiatus as well. I look forward to us three being back together and doing this as we once started this. So we'll be back on that note. Be sure to lock in with us because we got some big things in store in our future. In the meantime, y'all be easy. From Podcast P, love and peace.
Listen, I don't want to be mean. Man. But if we got to talk about loser of the year in the NBA world, and we're talking about just players, because loser of the year might be Nico Harrison. It gotta be Paul George. I've never seen at least within the realm of the scope right now. I don't know how to word it. He definitely fell off the worst from last year to this year. I'm gonna keep it a whole stack. Just from everything, right? The whole begging for the Supermax. Oh, I want what Kawhi got, right? Just for the Clippers to reject that offer. And then for Norman Powell to have a MIP runaway year, damn near, and just do everything Paul George was doing, if not better in some regards. Like Norman Powell, they said nah to Paul George. Norman Powell, 24 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 50, 43, 82, right? And then the Sixers, we finally got rid of Tobias Harris. Oh, we got Paul George. We got some Zemans now. For Paul George to be putting up these numbers, 16, 4 and 5, 43, 36, 81, just a shell of himself. I don't even think the numbers do that justice. Like just a shell of himself. And then for Tobias Harris, back on the Pistons, doing much of the same, if not, better efficiency. Like, God, Paul George fell the fuck off, bro. I'm gonna keep it a whole stack. And you know what hurts the most? And this is kind of where I get petty. I ain't gonna lie. His podcast fell off too, bro. Let's keep it a stack. This is a bad habit of mine, but I really do be pocket watching for real. I really do. I really do, chat. But when Paul George was a Clipper, let's just look at these numbers real quick. The last pod he did, we're looking at 288 with DeMar. Was it ever on to fall off? Yeah, it was. Don't do that. Don't do that. We're looking at 288 with DeMar, 167, 330, 355, 350, 300. Like, Paul George's podcast was genuinely doing numbers. I'm gonna give it to him. I'm gonna keep it a whole stack. Like, his podcast was one of the ones. From every metric you look at, clips, subscribers, all of that, I think they're closing in on 1 million. As soon as he moved to Philly, dropped to 155, right? Dropped to 155, 117. Okay. He did, I don't know if this was a separate interview, but this looked like a whole podcast to me still. 11K. 11K. We keep pushing over here. 104K. You know, and I'd love to, you know, if this is my fall off, hey, that'd be great. But nevertheless, 162K. The Drew Holiday episode did numbers. 683, so I can't hate on that. I can't hate on that. Jamal Crawford did well. 636 type shit. Then we scroll a little bit more here. Phil Handy did decent here, 572. Scroll a little bit more. Here we go. Derek Fisher, 41K. You know, this was a 50-minute segment, 24K. Right? Andre Drummond comes on, 15K. You know what I'm saying? Because the last one with Dwight Howard, 20K. 13K. What is this? 13K. 77K. And he was getting cooked in this one. Like, if we look at the comment section for this one, Paul George was getting baked in the comment section. Paul George getting baked in the comment section. You know what I'm saying? And I think two things happen. One, let's just keep it a stack. Moving from LA to Philly, market-wise, is just different. It's just different. Sorry. But two, them going remote really killed it. Really killed it. Like, and coming from a guy who hosts a successful remote podcast, I do think one thing that's kind of different with us is we've always started remote. So when we grew remote, this is what our fan base is accustomed to, right? But let's just keep it a stack. The preferred platform, the preferred way to watch podcasts is when everyone is in person, right? So when you had all of your success in person, right? And mind you, Set go crazy too, right? I'll give credit when credit is due. Set look clean as fuck. Probably one of the cleanest in the game, if I'm being honest with you.
DeMar DeRozan.
If I'm going to be honest with you, audio quality on point, camera quality on point, production on point when they're in person. For that to drop to remote podcast looking like this.
We was so mad that he hit that lucky shot.
Hold on. I don't even think that's real represent. Like, going from that to this. And I don't know why you two don't want to cooperate with me.
And Dallas Rutherford. I'm going to get back to that. I see what you did there. I'm going to get back to that. How everybody doing, man? How we living?
I'm feeling great. The question is, I want to know how you feeling, P, because you know you've been going viral, man. And you look real depressed. You know what I'm saying? Riding around
there. Oh, no, that's crazy. That's crazy. Don't look too bad. Painter, it doesn't look too bad, but when your audience is used to, you know, this insane production, to go from that to this, and also this isn't, let's just keep it a stack. I know equipment. This ain't even maxing out what a remote podcast can be. I know the fake. All right. Your EQs are off, right? Y'all got different cameras. I'm pretty sure Paul George is the only one on a mirrorless camera. You know what I'm saying? Everyone else is on a webcam. Like a shitty webcam. I can't say shitty, but this ain't this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really know my shit, chat. Y'all gotta stop playing with me. I really know my shit. This ain't this. Let's just keep it real. Let's just keep it P. You know? So when all of these things happen, and you're actually playing bad within this, like, you've been barely playing. So you're a current podcast, barely been playing because you've been injured. And when you are playing, you're shitty and under like really playing under expectation. Like, what do I really like? Do I really want to hear from you? Like, for real. Respect to Paul George. Like, what do you really have to offer? And I did say this because Kendrick Perkins is wrong a lot of times. And he's still wrong. I ain't gonna lie. Kendrick Perkins said this on ESPN.
Paul George is not the only person that should be, taking a break from podcasting during the basketball season. I feel like Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart as well need to take a break, because if you're trying to go out there and honestly compete for an NBA championship, that should be your only goal. Anything else outside of that is a distraction.
So, essentially, he said, because after Paul George said that's actually the headline down here. I didn't even know. I plan to take a break from the podcast. He goes and says, because they were actually playing the Knicks tonight. They played the Knicks tonight. And I'm pretty sure the Sixers got cooked again. He says, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, 2 Knicks players with a podcast. They got to stop that shit too. And I said, let's really talk about it, bro. Like, let's really pod. Current player podcasts are not good. And let me say that for the clip. Respect to these NBA players. I love that NBA players are having their own platforms. They're able to have their own voice. I really fuck that. Fuck that is crazy. I really fuck with that aspect. All right. I really like the fact that NBA players have their own voice. They can create their own platforms so that they can control their own narrative. But I'm specifically talking about current NBA player podcasts. Podcasts of players that are currently playing in the league. These are not good. A majority of them are not good. And I would say prior to this past offseason, Paul George's was actually the exception to the rule. But after we saw how he was actually podding about his situation on the pod, he lost a lot of authenticity with his fans. Because what people figured out, and rightfully so from the player perspective, I'll get into it. What people figured out was a lot of these NBA players, rightfully so, have relationships to protect, have negotiations to look out for, have brands to represent as an active player. So what you get is this podcast where, oh my God. So what you get are these podcasts where, let's just keep it a stack, the conversations are being held back off of that nature alone, right? And also, they're still in the middle of their career. They're still in the phase of their life where they're creating the stories to tell. You know what I'm saying? And I think this applies with just general podcasting. I think podcasting is an old man's game. I think I started to a fault. And I feel like this is a part of as to why I am not as successful as a podcaster as I can be. I feel like I started podcasting way too soon in my life. Right? Podcasts are really good when you have actual experiences to talk about, when you have stories to tell, when you have this level of wisdom with you, right? Because you have been through some shit. You know what I'm saying? I feel like even right now on the podcast, I feel like I'm lacking in certain conversations because of the fact that, as a 24-year-old who's been on the internet, has lived on the internet as much as I have, like Omar, Damo, and Sage, they just got more stories to tell than me. They go outside more than me, all these different things. So going back to the NBA space, I think a similar thing is happening. I don't want to hear a podcast from LeBron James in 2012. I just don't. As cool as that would be, it would still be entertaining to a certain degree. I don't want to hear from LeBron James in 2012. I don't want to hear from Steph Curry in 2018. I just don't. I don't want to hear from Michael Jordan in 93. I don't. What I do want to hear is when it's all said and done, when your story is written, let's go back and revisit these stories. Let's go back and reminisce. Let's go back and talk about what you should have done in this instance, what you do and don't regret. That's what I really want to talk about. That's what I really want to hear as a viewer, as a listener. You know what I'm saying? Let me hear what it actually was like to be coached by Doc Rivers. Not you being coached by Doc Rivers. Everyone is talking about Doc Rivers right now, but because he's your coach, you're going to hop on your podcast where you're supposed to be your most authentic self and say nothing about it. At that point, you might as well just go on another person's podcast. You might as well just go on national media if that's what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. That's what it is. And shout out to James Harden for saying it. And I'm not saying you're even saying this. The Mind the Game podcast is different because LeBron James is 40 years old. And let's just keep it a stack. He is at the tail end of his career. And he's also been in the league for 20 years. So even right now, as a current player, he has so much stories to tell. Right? Draymond Green. I feel like personally, he started too soon, but even him, like, you know, he's at the tail end of his career. Paul George, you can kind of sort of say the same thing, but I feel like last year, like, people didn't think Paul George was going to fall out this bad for real. But I don't know. I feel like Draymond and Paul George, I'm going to stand on what I said. Their podcast, Draymond's a little bit different because he truly just doesn't care. Like, I'm going to keep it a whole stack. I will give Draymond respect in that regards. Like, he just don't give a fuck. That's just his mentality. So even right now, I don't think he's as censored as like Paul George and these other current player podcasts. So I'll give him bail on that front. But everyone else, I don't know. But let me see. Let me look at Draymond's podcast too. Because from my understanding, like even when it comes to this conversation, like Draymond's podcast is not as consistent as it could be. Yeah, I'm looking at it. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. This is why I'm really serious about this. Like, current player podcasts, they're tough. They're tough. They're either a tough listen because of like the censorship thing that I'm talking about, but also, yeah, I'm looking at Draymond's right now because he is in in-season form. He's not as consistent as he could be. His last episode right here was 13 hours ago, right? Before that, we're looking at 3 days. Okay, boom. Before that, we're looking at 5 days before that. Before, we're looking at, what is this, over a week? And then we're looking at 3 weeks from, like, it's just mad inconsistent. So you're either going to get this, like, half-baked podcast or a podcast that just can't upload as consistent as he can. So that's just what it is. I do got to watch this KD one, though. That's kind of crazy. I do got to watch this KD one. KD's been on a low-key press run, too. I don't know if y'all been seeing that.